Welcome back to Yellow Skunk Farms, everybody. Quick disclaimer, this is a 21-year-old and up channel, so if you're not 21, please leave the channel now. I appreciate it. You see some action going on over there. We lost we lost Shiner. Excuse me. We lost Shiner last night. And I kind of noticed him yesterday. He had changed kind of a weird color. He just got old. And that's what happens when they get old. They pass on. And our cleanup crew takes care of them. Turtles are a great cleanup crew. That's what they do. Look at it. Cooter is running off with it. That's what they do. They clean up for us. We don't have to do anything. This is what they do. And they will devour that whole minnow. And we won't have to mess with any of it. You can see the water's a little cloudy this morning. Probably from them. Who knows? But Shiner was our first fish we put in about a year and a half ago. Almost a year and 6 months now. Shiner was the first fish we put in. We caught him in a minnow trap down at the reservoir. And he was already, probably that big when we caught him. And he lived to be probably his whole life, his whole life cycle finished off in here. And now it's time for him to move on. But he had a good life, and we say, sayonara. The cycle of life continues. As far as these ladies go, we're day 21. So we're starting week 4. And we've adjusted the Grandmaster LEDs. Let me show you what we did. So day 21, we lowered the cool blue, or cool white, you should say, warm white, red, far red. So we added in 50% far red, so now the reds are above the whites and the light red. Kind of call that the gold standard right here. So this is more white, this is more gold, and then we add the reds in. We lowered the power down to 40%. We're only using 207 watts of power at 40% with all the channels on. Now, some remove all of the cool blue. I like to leave some of it in because that's full. We are full spectrum with the reds and the blues and the greens and everything else in there. But everything is on now. And these flowers should adjust. Now that we're seeing flower is when we want to add that deep red in. And we'll start to see, hopefully we'll start to see more trichomes and more terpenes and just pushing that flower now to produce what we want it to produce. But I don't know how long. This is the first time I've ever run any of these genetics. So I have no idea how long they'll take. I'm guessing, 60 to 70 days. That's the average for these hybrids. But we go as long as they need to. I don't really go off the package. We're going to go as long as they need to. And when they're ready, we'll harvest. Or when they're to the point where we like them, I should say. Because everybody likes to harvest at different times. They got different reasons. If you harvest these flowers on most genetics early, you'll get more of a heady high, more of a uplifting non-couch lock, so to speak. If you let them go into the ambers and let them completely go all the way, you'll get more of that couch lock. This is just my opinion. I mean, I have heard the science behind it, but I don't repeat the science because I'm not a scientist, and you should not listen to me at all when it comes to science. I'm more of a doer and a shower, so to speak. Sometimes I can't really. I like to hang around and listen to people who are a lot smarter than me, and then take their information and use it how my brain works the best, and that's simply by doing it, or like putting their practices into play and seeing what we get. And I did this based off of Leighton Morrison's horizontal soil system. That's how this all came into play. Like, if it wasn't for me learning how soil layers work and how moisture and water seep down through the layers of the earth down into these underwater reservoirs, or underground reservoirs called groundwater, which is basically where, when I bought this property, we had to drill a well. You got to go down. We had to go 110, 120 feet down. Some place, depending on where you are on the planet, depends on how deep you got to go, and you have to have water under you. But if you go deep enough, usually you're going to hit water. And that's how this horizontal soil system. If you look up soil horizons, you will see a diagram of soil, basically layers. Everything's in layers because that's how the earth was built, it's in layers. Boom, boom, boom. Something dropped off here. And that's how this is set up. So basically the sand and the silt, the pea gravel, all underneath that clay layer there. You see, we still got to add clay here. We were just using this spot to go in and out of, so I didn't have to step on the clay too much. But when we put that clay layer down, that's the separation that's the layer that's going to separate the soil from our reservoir. So you're drilling down. You're going to drill down through hard clay, and it's usually that hard clay that separates the soil. Then you got to keep on going until you get to the water. Same principle here, just on a smaller scale. Soil goes on top of the clay. The water that being wicked up out of the creek into the soil will run down the wall into our reservoir. Some of it will be wicked into the soil, not quite all the way to the wall. Sometimes it will, depends. It really depends. But a lot of that excess water that gets wicked up over the wall will run down the wall into the reservoir, sit on top of that clay layer, but slowly seep down into that clay layer into our reservoir, wicking water up. The soil will wick water up out of the clay and be wicking it from the top, so it will stay completely moist and saturated in places that it needs to be. Where the roots are is where the moisture needs to be. You can see that we got halfway done with our pond shield yesterday. So I'll wait for this to dry. Alright, then I can come in and stand on that and do this. And then we'll come back, we'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and we'll touch up. So we'll do another layer around the edges, around the bottom. Once this dries, we'll put another coat on top of this. I did 4 coats on that one over there. I don't think we need 4 coats. I did a little overkill last time. This time I did this a lot better, I don't know, I just, we knew what we were doing this time. Sort of, kind of. So it only took me, about 40 days to get this far. But I haven't been working on it every day. But the days I do work on it each day, I might put in an hour or 2. I don't kill myself with this. It's not, this would have, other than waiting for the pond shield to dry, concrete to dry, you could put this together, Me and two other people could easily put this together in 2 days if it wasn't for, waiting for things to dry. So it's waiting on the concrete to dry, waiting on the pond shield to dry. Everything else I had in my head. I knew the layout. I knew how I wanted it to be before I even started. I think we hit the nail pretty close to what I was looking for. I mean, there are definitely some things that aren't perfect. We may have to adjust. So we still, even though we've pond shielded this, we still may have to add a few rocks to the top of that creek wall. And it really depends on how the water is going to flow, how we're going to adjust, water spinning and falling in certain places, going over rocks, falling over rocks, spinning around rocks, how much we're going to get to wick. Let's see if we can see that we're pretty level with the rocks. The pond is lower than the creek, so it's going to come down around, and you can see the drop-in point here is. See how deep it is? It's about 13, 14 inches deep, and then it'll come around. See, this is already nice and dry. Then it'll come around and fall into the pond right from there. But we still have all that space to build up with the sand, silt, pea gravel that we're going to put in there, raising the floor up. The more sand, silt, clay, pea gravel we have, the cleaner the pond will stay, because we have more surface area, more biology packed in. The deeper the sand, the more biology we'll have in there cleaning. And that's what it's all about, getting those roots to root into that stuff. And the more roots we get, the cleaner the water will be. And that's what we're looking for. We got him over here in the corner. Seeing this, look at that grease. Look at that. Can you see that grease spots on the water? That's coming from that fish. I can see it. They're over here. It's got that fish up underneath that log there. But I can see the grease coming off that fish. And that grease hopefully will get sucked up into the pump, flow through the creek, and eventually end up in the soil where the plants can then uptake. I'll tell you what, these things in 21 days, 3 weeks time, they stretch. Look at this. See that moisture spot right there? Another reason why we have to keep airflow, because that leaf was laying on top of that, like there. And I've got the fan pointed up, so we can point the fan a little bit further down. Maybe a little further down. There it goes. And then just come in here and take finger off. And good to go. From here on out, I'll just take a few fingers here and there, ones that are overlapping. I don't want to take too many off at this point. about week 3, start of week 4 is when I stop defoliating, other than maybe a few fingers here and there. You know, you get a little rust on a few. Nothing's perfect. We can always just take a finger. I don't shoot for perfection. That's not something I look for. Nothing in nature is perfect. So you're going to have spots. You're going to have, you know, things that it's nature. You know, you can't beat yourself up over a yellow leaf or a rust spot or you know, anything that looks like it's out of the ordinary. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it needs attention. Most of the time, these things do not need. They will fix themselves. Nature. Well, I'll say in this system, and if you're growing in a tent, you know, or in a bag or a pot or something like that, it's a totally different. It's a totally different setup. It's totally different. I can't, like I said, you shouldn't listen to me in a growing sense. That's why, you know, a lot of people ask me questions, and I'm like, you know, this system here is totally different than anything anybody else than I've seen. I mean, if you know somebody else who's got a pond and a creek in their indoor grow, by all means, I'd love to see it, because I'd like to talk to them. But it's a completely new system. It's completely new to me. So me telling you how to grow your crops in your household or your tent is not the best advice. You need to find somebody who's growing like you. This is my hobby. This is just an adventure I'm on. It's something I enjoy doing. I've always enjoyed fish aquariums. I've always wanted my turtles back that I had when I was a kid. You know, I just came up with a system that I could have all of that. And that's where I'm at right now, but I'm learning, you know what I mean? This is a learning experience. So taking advice, other than, you know, if you want to do something similar, like growing in living soil is, it needs space. So the larger the bigger the container, you're better off. I built this container. You know, I built this container to be big, 12 feet long by 9.5 feet wide. So this is my container. So a lot of people grow in grassroots. These are 30-gallon. It's a 30-gallon grassroots living soil bag, plastic on the inside. Works great for indoors. If you're going to do a horizontal like me, you need to seal that air pocket up, because we're holding water down here, not letting air in and out. We're holding water. So these do not do well for horizontal. You need a solid container. Like this is a box. Or you need to use rock. And then pond liner inside of that, and then everything that goes inside the pond liner to hold that water down there at the bottom. There's our trap hole down there. There's no water down there right now, just some falling down soil. But when we cut these plants out, you'll see water rush down to the bottom, because these plants are wicking up that water. All that excess water that's being pulled up over the creek wall is being utilized by all the plants now. So that's how that works. These guys just gonna tear old Shiner up. And no, I will not remove Shiner. Those turtles will take care of him. The system will adjust. It will regulate itself. Basically, we don't have to add fresh water. Fresh water is being dumped in with the dehumidifier in the back. It's got a hose running in, dropping continuously fresh water into the pond, into the creek. which tops us off with fresh water, keeps everything nice and balanced. If we were not adding water, we would have to do water changes, just like a fish aquarium. You know, every 2-3 weeks, every month, we would do a water change. Even if you had a filtration box. Now, I haven't done a water change ever. It's been a year and a half, and I have not done a water change. All we've been doing is dumping fresh water back in as it's being wicked and evaporated out. So we have had to add water, 2-4 gallons, depending on, how big the plants are, depending on how much the edges of the creek are wicking. But yeah, that's where we are. So far so good, but we did lose our first fish. But we salute Shiner and his energy shall be put back into the system, recycled, so to speak. The energy never dies, it just gets recycled. And with that being said, happy Sunday to everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.